everybody. Welcome back to The Move, brought to you by Patron Tequila. Talking about the stage 10, into Le Grand Bornand today, a town that my guest sitting over here to my left, George Hincapie, and I know very well. Also, I should say, over behind my co-host, J.B. Hager, our old friend Dylan Casey.
What's up?
Former Postie. Zach, you're not on camera. Oh, so there's another dude in here, too. His name's Zach. You can't see him, but... I was right, JB. George.
You were right.
Back up. I'm sorry. I was wrong about the incident with Tom Skuins in the motorized.
I was going to bring that
the
up,
magnetic
too.
wheel. I was dead wrong, and as somebody wrote in,
and I was.
one of our loyal listeners said Lance is always wrong. And George was right about that, but I feel like I was right about the day. I thought this was a total snooze fest. George?
I mean, yeah, it was still a tough day for the guys. You can tell the guys were still not fully recovered from Sunday's stage. I mean, look what happened to Iran. Look at the favorites. They could not attack with, Sky's tempo, which today would have been a good day to test out the strength of Sky, and nobody did anything. So
yeah, but let's not forget about the start, which we didn't get to see on TV. And selfishly, I can say, that's when I had to do most of my work, and because the breakaway wants to start from the 0K banner.
Before we get into it, let me take care of a little bit of business. This show today is brought to you by a few people. First of all, the Aura Sleep Ring. I have to say, I'm so proud of my sleep. 2 nights ago, my sleep efficiency, JB, was 98%. I mean, people. That is the maillot jaune. I am the maillot jaune of sleep. This is the most accurate sleep device in the world. Takes a reading every second. Bunch of guys in the tour wearing the device. They're sending us their data. They've asked, for obvious reasons, that we not share it. But it's fascinating to watch my sleep every night compared to these poor saps having to ride around France. Huge difference. If you guys are interested in sleep, and there's a bunch of bad sleepers out there, I suggest you start following these things. Sleep and recovery, super important. Go to auraring.com. The coupon code is TheMove.
And these things it's going to take just a little bit of time to get your ring in.
They're back ordered. This is the second generation, but it's an amazing device. But go get it.
Yeah.
If anybody beats 98%, bring it on.
Okay. That's a challenge.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right. Back to the action.
All right. I want to talk about revisit. We just touched on a second ago the Tom Skujins thing, or Skujins.
Yeah.
Again, pronunciations. Let's revisit that, because George was right. We found, if you didn't hear that episode the other day or see it, there was a crash. He was in polka dot, so it was a lot of eyes on him. But he picks up his bike, and we saw that rear wheel just go zzz, and there was a little bit of debate here.
A lot of it.
It looked very suspicious, and it did become a big story. And George was like, no way, no way, no way. There's nothing mechanical done to his bike.
Right.
It's amazing how many cameras are in the peloton now, and this bizarre alternate view showed up.
Can I defend myself a little bit, JB? I mean, because I said I just don't think this is going on, and I want to believe that would not go on, and I just don't. But the clip that we all had 5 minutes after the finish was just a very short clip, and of course you missed.
Yeah,
His theory was right, but that wasn't part of the clip. Like, if you just looked at the little,
with that,
again, I'm trying to defend myself, and it looked sus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ricky got some splaining to do.
Knowing Tom's the way I do, I really made it my mission to study that video while Lance was talking. I watched it about 100 times, and I was able to come up with my theory, which
good job, buddy.
And you know that rider well.
Yeah, I know him great. He's an amazing person. Stand-up guy, incredible cyclist. He was on our team, Hollow West Citadel, for 2 years and won a bunch of races for us. Was in the yellow jersey at Tour California and won a stage. Great guy.
But the issue is, like any video, the way you cut it is gonna.
Of course.
I mean, look at reality TV. That's one big giant edit. But anybody that's crashed enough knows that the first thing you do when you get up is make sure your chain's on.
Yeah. Right.
So George gets to be right on that one. Lance gets to be right on today's being somewhat uneventful.
I got a funny text. I want to read this to you guys. This is great. I might need to borrow your readers.
Are you guys keeping score, by the way?
Yeah, we will be.
All right.
So I get this. There's this young Australian kid, Rohan Dennis, who's an amazing time trialist, great rider, on Team BMC, but not at this tour. And he was listening to the show the other day when George and I disagreed about this stage. He says, "Mate, just listening to the Move podcast about stage 9. Got to disagree about stage 10 not being hard enough. There is no fucks to give or respect in the peloton these days, which means less control and these idiots thinking they can win when they end up losing 10+ minutes. Just from what I've been told by guys like VDV, there were issues back in the day. No shit, Rohan, when you guys were racing, but everybody knew their place and racing was just straight up better." And so then he writes me back this morning, and he says, "I didn't watch the stage, but from what I saw in the results, I was wrong. Boring stage for GC." So, 2-1, George.
So why was it boring? Why was it uneventful other than the Alaphilippe?
Here's what I think. I agree with George that I think the first week of this race was hard. The cobblestones, even as uneventful as they were in the GC picture for most of the guys, were very, very hard. And then I always talk about it. The rest day is just it always worried me, and I think it still worries guys to this day. So you get a day like this, which is almost like a merge or a transition back into the race. And anytime you have a downhill finish, the guys are not incentivized to attack. I mean, that last climb, I get it. Team Sky, obviously the strongest team in the race, setting what was probably a mean tempo. But Jesus, that was just...
So those guys, you've often talked about, burning matches, and you only have so many. Yeah. So any of the GC contenders with a downhill finisher saying, "I don't want to burn a match here because I'll get caught"?
Well, or I mean, I guess we sort of were maybe speculating that a guy like Vincenzo Nibali, who's an amazing downhiller, might make a go of it, but it's not a technical descent, although Julian Alaphilippe, who won the stage today, we have to say, and we haven't talked about it this tour, that was the move. I mean, he won the stage on a downhill, right? He got away from Tamarai descending. I mean, all of a sudden TV's showing Tamarai, we're like, oh, he's alone. And then you see up the road Julian Alaphilippe, who can ride his way out of anything. I mean, he's like Sagan. I'm surprised he didn't ride a wheelie across the finish line. He just rode away on the downhill.
And a couple things that were not mentioned. It was they had 9 incredibly stressful stages, which I think is a bit longer before any rest day usually in the Tour de France. So I think these guys are a bit tired. One day off after the Roubaix stage is not quite enough. Yeah. The GC guys are probably like, you know what? I'm not taking any risks today. If I make the front group, we're good. And tomorrow's a super hard day, 106 Ks, lots of climbs. So I feel like they all played it pretty conservative today based on what the last 10 days of racing.
As a guy who's done Roubaix so many times, I mean, how many days
it would take me 10 days to recover from
feel
a hard Roubaix to feel normal. It takes longer than any race on the calendar to recover from.
I'm like, yes.
What were you going to say,
I know
Casey?
what you're saying. Wait, I don't have no fucking idea. Nor do you, Dylan.
I did it twice. What are you fucking talking about?
Oh, you did? You did Roubaix?
Yeah. Asshole.
I love this. We were at dinner last night because there's this big Fortune Brain Tech conference, and so we were at this with these mucky muck dinners last night. Dylan's there, and some dude at the end of the day was like, "Dylan, how many tours did you do?" And I was like, "Oh God, this is amazing. Go ahead, answer this." I was like, "Oh,
all right, can we just get back to the story here?
That would be 0.0. 0.0.
Look, I think
how
what
many
we saw
welches
today.
did you do?
All right, can you shut up over there?
I'm done.
Jesus.
I'll shut up the rest of the time.
All right, listen. So what I was going to say is I think what we saw in today's race, you guys have all said this already, but, riders making a decision to spend their capital efficiently because, it's like economics. You only have so much money to spend, and you got to be judicious with it over the 3 weeks. And downhill finish, and I think also just, the racing reflects the fact that the teams and the riders are a lot more calculating. I mean, you can see the guys, paging through their power meters to kind of look at stats and data, and they probably already have a prescription about what they're going to do in the stage when they get to the last climb or the last couple climbs. So I think that's what's going on.
Seems
that in combination with Team Sky, who, I mean, if you have guys like Kwiatkowski just sitting on the front, I mean,
Yeah.
there were.
Yeah, I mean-
it was boring, and it didn't look like anything was going on, but there was only 20 guys left. I mean, you
I
had
can
a guy
assure you,
like-
for the guys in the group, it was not boring.
No, it was not boring.
It was
and a guy
hard.
like Rigoberto Urán, who lost time in the first week and got second in the Tour last year, is clearly not the same
Yeah.
rider.
He's devastated right now.
I think it's good way I have all of you here too. That, we weren't seeing the GC being contended today, but what's it? I mean, maybe you can explain to all of our listeners how significant it is for a guy like Alaphilippe to get a stage win, breakaway stage win. What that means to you, tour wise, career wise, just for when you're taking your eye off the overall scene for a little bit.
I can't comment because according to Wikipedia, I never won a stage. But George has won a stage in the Tour.
No, neither, according to Wikipedia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
But
well, then
it's
we can't talk about it.
it's a big deal. I mean, Alaphilippe is one of the most emerging stars in France. He's second Tour de France. He missed last year. You can he saw that he was very emotional at the finish. There's nothing bigger than the Tour de France. He's a French rider. This is a massive deal for him.
Yeah,
I know you guys seem to really like this rider.
Yeah, he's
Popular rider?
He is by far the best French rider.
which is unusual.
Yeah.
Because we
which,
don't
by the way,
really
we
like
have
French
Brian
riders.
Holm waiting for us to call us.
Let's
You
call
guys-
Brian. You want to call him right quick? He can give us some insight into Julian Alaphilippe, and I'm just double checking since I'm always wrong. He won Flèche Wallonne this year, which is a semi-classic, but is an amazing race, beautiful race in the Ardennes up in Belgium. Super hard circuit and finish, and I mean you don't win Flèche Wallonne without being a straight up baller. I mean that is a legit finish.
So, and to give you a little background, Brian Holm was my director at HCC. He's the director now at Quick Step. One of the funniest, old school,
So cool.
coolest directors
Yeah.
in the history of cycling. So let's give him a call.
But
and,
Lance, you guys were teammates, right?
No.
Were you ever teammates with Brian?
I don't.
No.
I don't think
On-
so.
no, he wouldn't
Okay.
do it.
As
Well,
we've
you
learned
should-
on this tour, Lance's memory is pretty
Yeah,
spotty.
I get everything wrong.
Well, by the way, you should follow Brian on his Instagram. He's
What's the fir- what-
hilarious.
What's our first question?
You go for it. And we'll talk about Alaphilippe.
No.
Yeah. You got to put on speaker too.
I know.
Don't
Let
just
me
talk
see
to him
if
by
he
yourself. Sorry, George. I took your readers.
Casey, are
Just
you
tell him
on?
to call
Are
us
you on
back.
readers
Okay,
yet?
he's screening me. I'll tell him to call.
Yeah, tell him. Just text him and say call us back. I want to.
Siri.
Is that me?
It's Siri turn. Siri's talking to you.
Well, while we're waiting on that, why don't we take care of just a little more business? Let's talk about PowerDot. We're getting all kinds of crazy emails, JB, about PowerDot and people that are getting the unit. Again, this is the highly portable mobile eSTEM unit that if any kind of injury, any kind of issue physically, I love this thing. I love it so much I invested in the company. Bluetooth enabled, powered by an app on your phone. For all our listeners, go to powerdot.com/themove, 25% off. And sign up to win one. They're giving one away a day. They better not give away too many because from what I hear, they're going quick.
And I don't know if you saw it. Lawson had a picture of his.
Did he post that picture?
He posted a
Brian
picture.
Holm calling, guys.
Oh, here's home.
He got
All
his
right,
powered out.
here we go.
Okay.
Brian. How
Yes, dude.
how are you, my friend?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Very good, very good.
What's the everybody? I'm sure everybody's super excited on the team. How's it going?
Well, quite all right. You know, after the rest day, after the flat stages, coming out, winning the first mountain stage. I mean, we're Belgians, aren't we? And then winning the first mountain stage is quite nice. And somebody just told me it was our victory number 50 this year.
Holy shit!
Wow.
So that's sort of okay.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
The Wolfpack gets 50. 50.
Biddy.
Yes. That was nice. It was nice.
Ask about Alex. Talk to us about.
tell-
Of course, you know.
Brian, tell us a little bit about Alaphilippe. What did you call him on the text message again? You have a nickname for him,
Lulu.
Lulu. Okay,
Lulu.
he seems to be very similar to your personality. Like loves music, very kind of progressive dude. Tell us about him.
About Lulu, he has a lot of energy, and I mean, a lot of energy. I mean, he can't sit still. He plays drums. He walks on his hands. He can sing. Let's call him life of the party. He's always, you would say, he's born happy. He's born happy. I mean, he just cannot sit still, and I think it's a victory. I mean, everybody is happy when Lulu he winning.
Are we?
And to be honest, he's a hell of a good cyclist. Also, he's coming from cyclocross, and he was quite close to win 2 years ago, and then he broke his bike actually, and last year he was out with a knee injury, and yesterday he said he would go for the polka dot jersey today and go for the stage win, and you say, okay, fine by us, go ahead, and wow, he did it, didn't he?
Brian, are we sure he's French? Are we sure he's French?
He's French?
That's Lance. He's saying, are we sure he's French?
I'm sorry I missed that one. I mean, I'm here middle of nowhere.
No, I know.
I'm actually sitting waiting for Lulu.
Let me. Okay. Lance is asking, are we sure he's French? You know, my wife's watching this live too, by the way, right?
Now I got the message. No, I mean, it's not typical to say it that way. I mean, it's easy for you to say. I'm sitting here middle of France, so I have to be very positive here, you know. So
Yes, agreed. I agree with that.
He got a little twist of Charles Aznavour and Johnny Hallyday with him.
All right.
Perfect. One last question: How crazy was it to make the breakaway today? Because nobody saw that on TV, and we're trying to describe how nuts it was to make the breakaway. Because all really strong guys. There was no luck involved. How fast was it? How crazy? How intense was it at the start?
You know how it is at the start. Yeah, the whole bunch. I mean, you don't have to be a cycling professor to know they're gonna go a break. You doesn't have to be a professor to know it's gonna go for the stage win. So everybody who can climb a minimum, they're gonna jump. I mean, people who not even can climb, they're gonna jump also. There was a few early breaks, and then after 12 kilometers left, it was a small climb, and then they went. And it was a bit tricky, and even good old Van Avermaet, he made it in with the yellow jersey and saved it one more day. But as always, you know, I think the first 20, 30, 40 kilometers of a race like today, of a stage like today, is quite underestimated because it's very, very difficult to get into that winning break because everybody knows it's going to make it to the finish. I remember Grand Bonnat, we always did almost the same stage in 2008 with Linus Gerdemann. We said, get into the break, and he won the stage and he won yellow.
Yeah, I was with you then.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I couldn't remember, so...
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brian.
He sucks.
I missed you too, brother.
It sucks getting old, Brian.
All right, well, we really appreciate it. I'll text you later. Thank you so much.
Please stay in touch, okay?
All right, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We will. We'll stay in touch.
Brian's
He's the
awesome.
best. I love
He
him.
is so
He's
I
funny.
cannot believe he forgot I was there. Fuck.
That sucks,
That's my
man.
boy.
Hey, stick with us because before this wraps up, we're going to revisit 2004 on this very same finish.
Right.
That's coming up. Before we do that, I think it'd be great to get you guys' opinion on the gravel sections that we saw today. And what's that like? I mean, does that really affect that riders? I mean, after you do cobbles, gravel's got to feel like nothing, right?
Yeah, but it didn't have obviously didn't have an effect on the race. You saw that. But what I do think is I think this is great. I think an event, I should say, and a sport that's trying to in some ways reinvent itself, make itself more interesting. You know, this might have just been a little taste. It'd be amazing if one of these years, and I think we'll see it, where you have some kind of a gravel uphill finish. It's no secret to anybody in the industry that the gravel trend, gravel bikes, gravel races, gravel rides, is it's probably the hottest trend for the industry at the moment. So it's natural that the events should support, you know, what is going on and you know, races like the Dirty Kanza, a 200-mile gravel race that's all self-supported. That's hard.
And don't forget, in the Pyrenees, when they do Plat a Day, Instead of going left to the top, they go right and do another 5K on gravel this year. So
This
that's,
year.
Well,
that's
we
gonna
did.
be a
I
big
didn't.
deal.
Not only did we not forget it, we didn't even know it. So that's amazing.
Yeah, well, Christian, he wrote it, and he said it's super intense.
Ooh.
I mean, the climb is hard. I'm not sure what the
Awesome.
gravel conditions are.
But I don't think George can chime in or Dylan. But I don't think anything changed technically. I think they rode the same bikes, the same tires. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, it's-
Chris Flume flatted, so obviously they didn't go with the sturdier tires. It was only a mile section, so
Yeah.
it was just one. It wasn't
Just
a big deal.
a little tickle, mate.
You know, a lot of them were doing press conferences yesterday. You've talked about how, you know, in last year in the tour on those rest days, when you're in a jersey or any kind of leadership position, you still got to go do all those press conferences.
Yep.
And-
That's yeah, it sucks. And then other things get announced. I mean, we saw Jim Mockowitz with Team BMC having a press conference announcing a savior, his saviors. He went from 3 letters in BMC to 3 other letters in CCC, which I guess is like a Polish like purse maker.
Bag and shoe maker
There you go.
from a ex-professional rider, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, do we remember?
Oh, that's
him?
cool.
I don't know how long ago he raced, but it's super cool.
One of the press comments I saw, just a testament to how tough that first 9 days was Bob Youngles. Did you see that? Dave and I were in here laughing. He said, "I'm just happy to have survived with my skin still on."
Whoa.
That just tells you how tough this first week plus has been.
Can we talk about the Patron? Since this show's obviously, as you all know, brought to you by Patron Tequila. Every day we name a Patron. I guess we get to have 3 Patrons. Can I go for it? I want to name my Patron.
Don't take mine though.
I already know who yours is, but I'm going with Mikkel Kwiatkowski. I mean, the way I love this bike rider. He can. By the way, just so y'all know, the director who spotted him at a very young age and said, "This kid is legit. This is a future champion," was Johan Brunel. By the way, part 2, the guy who spotted Bob Jungles and said, "This kid is legit and will be a champion," was Johan Brunel. Nobody in the history of cycling can spot young talent like him. But Kwiatkowski, this guy's sitting on the front, setting this ferocious tempo. And the thing I love about him is when his job is done, he just puts it in park. He literally stops. Not one of these guys like finishes a minute back. No, he finished 10 minutes behind. He just noodles to the finish. I've got a job to do tomorrow. He is my Patron of the day.
There you go. George?
So my Patron is GVA, Greg Van Avermaet. I mean, going in the breakaway from the start in the yellow jersey. I don't know if you've ever seen that in the Tour de France. What an amazing ride. Greg is an awesome person. He stayed at my house before the World Championships in Richmond. And just to give you a testament of the type of person he was, 3 days before he goes to the World Championships, I get home from the office and nobody's in the house, and I go in my backyard and Greg's playing soccer with my son 3 days before the World Championships at the Richmond Worlds,
Wow.
which he was the favorite of. And I go out there, I'm like, "Greg, what are you doing?" And it turns out, I don't know if everybody knows this, but he was top 10 junior cycle player in Belgium until he was 18 years old, and at 18 he decided to focus on cycling.
Wow.
And now he's one of the number 1 cyclists in the world. So just a great story, great guy, and I'm just happy to see him in yellow and happy to have him keep the yellow for another day.
Dylan, who's your Patron?
I don't know, not necessarily about today, but I'm a real big fan of Marcus Berghardt. I think
Yeah,
he
Marcus,
does.
he's
He's
stud.
just solid, huh?
Did you watch the race?
Yeah, I watched the
Yeah,
race.
just say he's
Patron of the
Alaphilippe.
day.
Somebody has to make the
I know.
winner the Patron.
Okay, fine, Alaphilippe, but like,
He could walk on his hands. We just heard from Brian Holm that he could walk on his hands.
okay, so fine. I mean, he's gonna get enough accolades for the day. He doesn't need another one for me. But I'm just saying, like, Marcus Berghardt is cool, and I think part of that is influenced by the fact that I think Sagan did a great job of doing what he needed to do today to get the 20 points. I mean, he's clearly focused on that, and I think that's admirable.
So then that brings the question, what was the move? Was it going at the gun, or was it that downhill?
No, it was the downhill.
It was the downhill. That was
yeah,
the move.
Yeah, he's just so good technically. I mean, this kid, Tamarai, this Estonian kid, is very strong, but he got beat.
I may disagree slightly.
What?
But just because I like to disagree with you.
Yeah, it's better.
Um,
Better for the show, by the way.
I think he rode. Honestly, I think he rode that last climb so smart. He did not go with those early moves. He was third on the road on the last climb. Did his pace, caught the 2 guys in front of them. Was obviously paced himself a lot better than Tamaray and the other guy. And sure, he made the difference on the descent, but he really rode very smartly up the last climb.
Well, yeah, I'm sure the other two guys were just demoralized when he rode away.
Yeah.
So
Just so we know, or just so y'all know, Lawson Craddock's nonprofit effort for the Velodrome in Houston, which got ravaged by Hurricane Harvey, I'm sure Lawson thought he would maybe raise $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's at $100,000. I was joking before we went live that, this fucking Velodrome, before you know it's going to have like, it's going to be indoors, air conditioned, all new service. This thing's going to be like,
Which would be
like
nice
where
in Houston.
The Texans are going to look at this thing and go, God, how can we play there when this is all done? Lawson, that's amazing.
it's really
Yeah,
cool.
that's amazing. How did he fare today? Do we know?
Look, he's surviving, man.
Yeah,
He's surviving.
I think the hopefully, knock on wood, the worst part is over for him. And
Yes, it can
he's on
only
the mend.
every day can only get better and easier for him.
Now, a lot of you may remember 2004, stage 17. It was this very same finish.
Mm-hmm.
We were looking at it today, and again, Lance's memory is like, that's not the same finish. You know
that's
what?
a totally different finish.
It was the same finish, and I'll play a little bit of this, and then I want to very funny reaction from Lance about what happened on that day. I'll play it here, and you guys can relive this.
The champion of France is about to get a stage win here in the champion of Germany rather is about to get a stage win, and look at this now, but Landis to the last minute drives on. Cloten doesn't have a lot more left here, but it's enough to win the stage, and a slight gain here because he lies third overall. He gets a 20-second win bonus. He will creep a little bit closer to Ivan Basso, and who knows what will happen in the final day's time trial. This is a bad result now, I think, for Ivan Basso. And still Ulrich is waiting for the move from Lance Armstrong. As Cloten goes up to the line now, it's not going to be far to the finish. There is a time gap, but the man in yellow is running at him with that usual determination. Ulrich is in the slipstream. Armstrong is coming with an incredible rush, and Cloten has realised it too late. Is there any stopping Lance Armstrong in this Tour de France? And the answer is no, there is not, because Ulrich has just...
Now,
You played a lot of that clip, JB.
I know.
Anyways, but and if we couldn't find it before we went on the air, but the German coverage of it was, somebody showed it to me or sent it to me one time, where the commentator was so excited for Andreas Cloten, otherwise known as Clody, was Jan Ulrich's most loyal teammate, friend. And so this commentator is like, Clody. And then I start going after him, which I'll get into in a second. And then he says, Mein Gott, mein Gott, mein Gott in Himmel, mein Gott in Himmel. My God in heaven. I mean, and we watched it today, and I looked at George, and I was like, that was such a dick move. Like, why?
By
And
you,
I
by
nodded
you.
in agreement.
Yeah, but you know, but
I mean, we were
but
talking
you-
earlier, like, no need to go off, and at the time, of course, I was like, of course, I mean, screw these guys. What are they trying to do? And I look at it, and I've since become great friends with Andreas Cloten, and I watched it today, and I was like, oh, why didn't I just let him win?
because you were in yellow, you had no reason
No,
to go
just a
take that
total
spot.
dick
Zero.
move.
And I don't think Clody's ever won a stage of the Tour de France.
Are you
or-
serious?
I don't know. I
I'm
could
the
be wrong, but
biggest
up until
dick
that point,
ever walked the
definitely
face of
not.
the earth.
But LA weren't they fucking around with you at the top of the Qual
But
de Free?
still, Dylan, watching
I
it
know.
now, I'm
I
like,
know, I know.
there's no excuse. They
Yeah.
could have punched him. Let him win. Let Clody have
here's
one.
the pink elephant in the room is that Landis is the one that helped you win the stage.
Who's that?
No, I'm just.
I don't even know who
I'm
that
just
is.
like it's that's some crazy shit to look back.
Well, what
on.
would you say to Cloten now if he was sitting right here?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, if Clody, if you're listening, brother, I love you, and I am so sorry. You and I hated you. In 2000. I was like, this guy is such an asshole. I mean, just moving. He never touched his brakes in the group. He was always just didn't talk. And then I ended up being on his team when I came back in 2009 on Astana, and I got it within half a day. I was like, oh my God, I love this guy. Like, he was the greatest guy,
Yeah,
the
of course.
greatest teammate, and just because we had one on stage 3 here, a team time trial. There is one person you want on your team. This boy, he ripped all of our legs off in the team time trial. He's just, and still to this day, he's a great friend of Jan's and a great friend of all of ours. And so, Clody, you know what? Well, actually, according to Wikipedia, he did win that day.
That's right. Well,
Yeah.
So he
let's
does,
let's also talk about the tweet or Instagram post or whatever from Johan
Yeah.
on this subject.
What did he say?
Well, he's basically saying that the first person over the top was disqualified
Right.
from, as is illustrated in Wikipedia, but the second person over the top of the climb, which is classified as the first over the top,
Right.
is guess who?
I don't know.
Mr. Floyd Landis.
Oh yeah. There you go.
So
That's perfect.
that
makes a lot of
there's
sense.
a little hypocrisy there.
A
Well,
little bit.
Should we talk about tomorrow? This is
tomorrow.
tomorrow, short stage, not as short as the really short one we'll see in the Pyrenees, but 108 kilometers, under 70 miles, uphill finish. So hopefully, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I think it's another uneventful day. I don't think that.
You're crazy.
What?
You are
You are
crazy.
Guys,
But here's the nuance.
George, let me borrow the readers.
Here's the while you're reading up, here's the nuance about tomorrow that most people probably don't know, is that because it's a 100K stage and it starts more or less on a climb, every single one of those fellas are going to be on a trainer for a half hour or an hour before the start tomorrow, which is crazy.
Look,
And going
while
from the
y'all
gun.
are popping off, let me just tell you, the La Rosier, which is the finish. Yes, there are steep pitches. There are some pitches of 10%. The final 4.2 kilometers are roughly 4 to 5%. That is not going to animate this race.
Big chain ring.
It's a 20K climb.
So what?
I think there'll
So
be
what?
some shit hitting the fan.
So you have the first 6 or 4 or 5%. I mean, there's just the middle of the climb is tough.
The GC favorites cannot let Sky have another day like today. They got to do something. I mean, there was 3 or 4 Movistar guys in that bunch. Nibali didn't do anything. I think they have to start making some moves in order to get time.
Mark my words. Nothing will happen. Now, caveat: the next day is Alpe d'Huez, where it has to happen. It has to start to happen.
Something interesting could happen. Geraint Thomas could take the yellow jersey tomorrow, which will make
That
the
BMX
next
guy
stage.
could jump over the peloton again. That would be interesting.
Let's say Geraint Thomas takes the yellow jersey,
Yeah, that would.
and then the next stage is Alpe d'Huez. Who's gonna, work for who, and how's that gonna go? I think it's gonna get a little sketchy, dicey amongst the team there, which will
Internal,
be interesting
the
to
Sky.
watch.
And before the show wraps, George wants to take Lance up a mountain and do something. We'll talk about that before we go.
Right, before we get to that, which is not going to happen, just so everybody knows, including you, JB. This show is also brought to you by our friends at High Brew Coffee. Cold brewed for those who do. 2 cups of coffee per can, 6 different flavors. We now have a discount code for people that want to buy it on Amazon. Go to Amazon.com and type in 20 the move. 20 the move for 25% off, right? It's 20% off. Duh. 20 the move, 20% off. High Brew Coffee. Cold brewed for those who do.
Eric writes, enjoying the Move podcast. I'd be interested in hearing what you guys did for rides on rest days before mountain stages. I noticed on
Hammered.
Strava that Bardet did 3,000 feet of climbing and 23 miles on a rest day. Is that typical for GC guys?
I don't like that. I'm actually starting to like that guy. He was my patron over the. If he went on and did 1,000 meters on a rest day, 3,000 feet of total climbing, and that's what to me, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do.
And this is a good question. Why I have the 2 extra guests.
Hey, JB, hold
Go
on.
ahead.
Can I
Sure.
replay the worst rest day of all time, not necessarily in a Grand Tour,
Go for
with Mr. Armstrong over here?
it. Okay.
I know
So,
where it is.
I know where
This was
going.
it was like the day before what was that race? Skelde Price, right?
Yeah.
So it was like a little bit of a cobbles, kind of a sprint finish type thing. And homeboy over here has us in the gutter, like all lined up in the gutter, pinned for like 3 hours.
Can we? Can
I had
I
an
say
extra-
why?
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause
Let's talk about why.
He had an apple cake for lunch, and he was all feeling guilty about it.
No, I had it the night before.
An apple tart for dessert the night before. So he felt guilty about it. Decided to hammer everything
I was
to the
like,
ground.
I don't think I should have eaten that. And I was like, you know what? I'll work it off tomorrow. And I destroyed these fools the day before the race.
Scarred. He was scarred.
That's another dick move. These were all. There was a bunch of dick moves. I'm just it.
Mea culpa. Happening
Yeah,
right
I mean,
here,
it's,
right
it's,
now.
I wouldn't do it again.
That's That's good you're admitting it.
I remember Julian Dean. You guys will
Hey,
will
mate.
remember Julian Dean, the great Kiwi bike racer,
awesome.
and he was so, and he's so sweet. He wouldn't say anything, but
No.
he was just like, you just looked at him. He's like, this is not happening. He used to always say, I said, I want to buy some land down in New Zealand. He's like, mate, you gonna buy the North Island or the South Island? He's fucking funny.
That was from Eric. Thank you. Moogsy writes in from Australia. Would love to know what you guys favorite and least favorite things to find in your musette.
Oh,
Go ahead, Josh.
That all depends on the what stage you're at. In the beginning, you're loving these new bars from whomever.
yeah.
By stage 10, you're sick of them, and you're trying to trade out stuff with people on
other
other
guys.
teams.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
It's kind of like on Halloween when you're trading with your
Yeah.
siblings.
you go to different guys. That are,
Or when you're in elementary school. That's
Right.
what you would do. Like, hey, what do you
yeah, they're all
Yeah.
trading. They're all trading bars by stage 10 or 14.
Yeah, and then
somewhere around
eventually you
there.
just default to Coke and Snicker bars.
Yep.
I know, right? The original sugars, right? Let's see. JP writes from Toronto. Dude, every day, he's talking to you, Lance. Every day you wear another We Do tee, and every day I pop into the shop to order that tee. I need your advice. How can I smuggle all these tees into the house?
Yeah.
Whatever
Hide
it
them from the
takes.
old lady.
Ship them to your office.
Yeah. Man. You know,
Different
what do we
billing
do today?
address.
Got to hustle today. Got to hustle. Got the dad hat back. You know
Yeah.
the trucker's on its way out. The dad hat is back.
Can we just go to
we
the
call
six
it the
panel?
Bolchka.
I want to go to the 6-panel, please.
We
mean,
have
I've been
we
asking
have
for
the
this.
wool. The gray wool is a
No.
6-panel.
No, but I want this one with the 6-panel.
Okay, well maybe next year. And then my rope hat. It's not moving. I'm just going to be honest and fully transparent with the listeners. The dopest hat in the shop is the Denver rope. It's the one with the throwback retro logo. You know, a throwback to System U, the great Laurent Fignon's team of the '80s, a French team. A play on System U and We Do. It is the sickest hat, and we can't give them away. And I was like, these hats, we got to order. I like quadrupled the order because I was just convinced it was going to be hotter than donut grease, and it is. Nobody's buying them. I mean, come on.
You got to keep. Let's get the sales
Maybe you
up. Wear it
should like
tomorrow.
drive up. Maybe
I wear it every day, thinking, okay, maybe they'll. Anyways,
No.
it's all right. It's all good. People have been super generous to us, and you know what? We're too late in the show to talk about it right now, and I broke the news to George yesterday. But tomorrow, at the top of the show, let's talk about what we at the Move are planning for the final day of the Tour de France. Because just a little hint, we won't be sitting here.
That's cool.
And hint part 2, we don't know where we're going to be sitting. George is like, I have to be in Jackson Hole Monday morning. I was like, well,
Sunday night, actually.
Sunday night? Well, that's going to be tough. But we don't know where we're going to be. So let's talk about it at the top of the show tomorrow, JB.
Okay. This will be fun while we have extra guests too. Do cyclists drink wine or anything else like that for dinner on race days? Good or bad? That's from Rob.
We never did. I mean, those years, those 7 years, we never drank. I did consume wine in the comeback years, primarily just to drown my sorrows. But
In 2005, you drank wine. We
Did I in
we
05?
have a Bordeaux on the table pretty much every night. Yeah, definitely.
I'm
100%.
losing it.
I'm a big believer in a glass or two, even in the middle of stage races. It's great, relaxing, helps you sleep better. On BMC, our Andy Reese, who unfortunately has passed away, he owned a vineyard, so there was never lack of wine. Although I think they've changed that policy since then, but we had plenty of wine on BMC as
Andy
well.
Reese, a great man. May he
Yes.
rest in peace.
May he rest in peace.
And good to get you guys' comments on women's cycling, and I'll tee that up. Kara writes, I want to say this is the best sports commentary right now. Almost every day, some of my closest friends, a group of women's Cat 2 racers, talk about the Move and how we think it's the best. Tell them we appreciate the straight talking ways. If that earns you the occasional grumpy label from George, so be it.
Cranky. It's cranky, not grumpy.
But
Cantankerous.
Kara goes on, please also convey our appreciation to your whole team for the ongoing support of women's racing. It's clear from watching the show that you guys are big believers in women's cycling. we need more people like you. Keep up the great work.
And I saw this article. Speaking of women's cycling, I guess, and I didn't, this is just the nature of, and it's not fair and it's not right that the women's side of the sport just doesn't get a lot of coverage. Maybe they show the results and have a little blurb, but I guess there was a one-day race yesterday on the rest day called La Course, and the headline here on Velo News is "Polarized Opinions Remain on La Course." So there was ASO put on a one-day women's race, and I need to read the article, but what could be polarizing about that?
Well, I think that's actually the whole problem.
It's just one day?
No, well, there's a race, and the title of the coverage is about the controversy that we may or may not even exist, as opposed to actually showcasing the race. I mean, the fact that women's cycling doesn't get more attention just says that the part of the industry that's responsible for telling the story is failing miserably, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's just another symptom of the sport in general between the governing body, which I think is just useless, and then all of the event owners and the team owners. It's a broken system, and it manifests itself across the entire sport.
We talk about it every day.
Yep.
Baptiste did write in. Remember the whole intercourses question? He said La Course was aired on French television. They rode the same course, but 40K less.
Well, he just now wrote in after while we're talking about it?
No.
Oh.
I just had clipped it
Okay,
from
I was going
earlier.
to say, man, he's really paying attention.
He is paying attention, though, by the way.
Intercourses.
But at least it was on French television. That's a start, maybe, right? And then one other thing that's kind of funny that was
can
going
we all
on.
go exercise after
Yes,
this?
you can all go exercise. Do whatever you got to do. Lance still just cringes every time he sees someone descending on the top tube. George offered to take him out on a descent around here in Aspen and
Because I've never
teach you to do that.
Offered and perhaps challenged.
It ain't
Not-
happening.
And I want to get a good video of it.
Dylan, do you do it? Or have you
Sit
done
on your
it?
top tube?
Rarely.
No.
But
I
you've
mean,
done it.
Like,
But you have done it.
oh yeah, sure. Back in the day,
Well, there's no
Super Tuck.
reason for us to do it right now. No good reason. But
Yeah.
if you're
Other than to go make
re-
Lance do it, and we'll film that.
Are you gonna?
Exactly.
Is he gonna do the thing where
That
the
actually,
Superman?
for
Yeah,
our
he's in
members,
Let's do
that
the
would,
you know
what,
Superman.
for the members, I will try it. I will try it, and we will film it.
On a fixed gear?
And I will hate my
Bam.
life.
I
I
want
will try it.
small
I'll try it for
victories.
the members.
Okay.
And I-
Wow. All right, that's dedication.
And
That's
it'll
a
be one and
commitment.
done. I'll never do it again. I swear to God.
Can I pick the descent?
No, I was gonna say it's not gonna be a steep. We're gonna do a gradual downhill. Crawl, walk, run.
So that's coming. And we'll do that for the members. We'll do that. If you want more information on that, go to wedo.team. If you want to get the rope hat, go to the shop at wedo.team.
Please. I've ordered a bunch.
And George and Dylan, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
pleasure.
thanks for having us.